All right, let's get into it. We're going to break down investor Michael Novagratz's incredibly bold prediction for Bitcoin's future. Now, he's a huge name in the crypto space, and his argument for a 10 times increase isn't just based on hype. It's actually rooted in a major global event that's forcing everyone to rethink what money even is.
You know, for most of our lives, a question like this would have sounded like something straight out of a spy movie, right? Purely theoretical. But then a massive geopolitical event happened that took this what-if question and made it a very, very stark reality.
So in response to the invasion of Ukraine, the US and Europe did something pretty much unprecedented. They froze hundreds of billions of dollars of Russia's foreign reserves. Just like that. And this one move sent a massive shockwave through the entire global financial system. It revealed this critical vulnerability that, honestly, most people had never even considered before.
What that action really showed was a profound, kind of scary truth. Any money that's controlled by a central authority can also be censored by that authority. And that realization created this giant crack in the very foundation of trust that the traditional financial system is built on.
All of a sudden, all that money Russia thought it had in its treasury, well, it wasn't really theirs anymore. Turns out, it was only theirs at the discretion of other countries. And this forced everyone, countries, big institutions, even regular people, to start asking a really fundamental question. If the world's most powerful currencies can just be switched off, then what is truly safe money?
So yeah, if the US dollar and the euro, the main reserve currencies of the world, aren't totally safe from political games, what's the alternative? And that question kicked off this global hunt for assets that couldn't be controlled by any single government.
And that event just perfectly highlighted the key difference between traditional money, what you might hear called fiat currency, and a decentralized asset like Bitcoin. See, one is controlled by a central group, but the other, it runs on a global network with no single boss. Nobody, and I mean nobody, can freeze your Bitcoin.
This whole situation got people seriously reconsidering what makes a good store of value. For thousands of years, the answer was gold, right? A physical thing that isn't somebody else's promise to pay. But in our digital world, Bitcoin is starting to look like its modern counterpart, which is why you hear people call it digital gold.
But here's where it gets interesting. According to Novagratz, the story isn't as simple as governments just immediately buying up Bitcoin to get around sanctions. He says, hold on, that popular idea misses some really crucial details about how the crypto world actually works.
So is Bitcoin really this anonymous, untraceable super tool for bad actors to evade sanctions? Well, Novagratz says let's pump the brakes and actually look at the facts, because they tell a very different story.
Now, this is where a huge myth gets busted. Bitcoin isn't anonymous. It's what's called pseudonymous. The blockchain is basically a public book of accounts, so every single transaction is recorded and visible to anyone. In fact, Novagratz points out that his own firm confirmed you can absolutely trace funds on the network. It's not the secret hideout people think it is.
And another thing Novagratz is quick to point out is this idea that Bitcoin is some stable refuge. He's like, look at what happened when the war started, and fear just gripped the markets. Did Bitcoin go up? No, its price fell, just like other high-risk things like tech stocks. He explains that when people truly panic, they run to cash, not to volatile assets.
Okay, so if the big story here isn't about governments secretly using Bitcoin, then what is it? Well, Novagratz argues that the real driving force for adoption is happening from the ground up. It's being driven by ordinary people who are facing financial collapse. Take a look at this number. That's how much the Russian ruble has lost in purchasing power over the last decade. Just try to imagine that for a second. Your entire life's savings losing 90% of its value. That is the grim reality for millions and millions of people.
And that's the key. For these people, this isn't about some grand geopolitical chess match. This is about pure financial survival. When your own country's money is failing, you're not looking for a risky investment. You are looking for an escape hatch. You're just trying to protect what little you have left. And this really lays out the choice that people all over the world are starting to face. On one side, you have things called central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. Think of them as government-controlled digital cash, with the potential for total surveillance and censorship. And on the other side, you've got Bitcoin, which gives you, the individual, control over your own money.
So, how does all of this connect to Novagratz's prediction for massive 10x growth? Well, it's not just about fear. It's about a powerful combination of network growth and Bitcoin's fundamental design. That's the estimated number of people using Bitcoin today. And to put that into perspective for you, the Bitcoin economy is already bigger than the entire population of Russia. It's like its own global borderless digital nation.
Novagratz's whole thesis for this 10x growth comes down to these three powerful trends that are all happening at once. First, you've got an adoption curve that's actually growing faster than the internet did in the early days. Second, you have a mathematically guaranteed scarcity. And third, you have this massive generational shift in how younger people think about money and who they trust with it.
And a huge part of that generational shift is simple access. I mean, to get into a lot of traditional investment funds, you might need tens of thousands of dollars just to start. But to buy Bitcoin, all you really need is a smartphone and a few bucks. This just blows the doors wide open for billions of people to access a global savings technology.
And so based on all those powerful drivers, that network effect, the built-in scarcity, and this huge wave of generational adoption, this is Novagratz's prediction. $500,000 for one Bitcoin within the next 5 years. That's a more than 10-fold increase from where it's been trading.
So Novagratz has laid out a really compelling case. He's arguing that a crack in the old system is pushing us faster and faster toward a new decentralized one. But the final verdict on whether this digital asset truly becomes the world's new store of value, or if it just remains a highly speculative, volatile asset, well, that's a story that is still very much being written.